yesterday I put the valve cover on. I forgot to put these little rods in. So when I took the screws out, the studs and screws, everything came out together and they were damaged. So I had to get new studs, and I've got new bolts, and well, we'll try to get it finished up and put back together today with the new studs. It looks like I'll probably have to take the valve cover off and start over basically. Let's get started. So we've got 8 studs here. These are the ones that came out on this side. Really need to clean them out. See if I can fire up the compressor. We'll get back to that. Alright, so I've got all the studs replaced, got the hardware on. Just need to tighten them up now. We'll kind of tighten them up in a crisscross pattern. I was using my electric impact, but you know what? It doesn't take much to get these down. I'll just run them down by hand. Now I'm short. I need my stepping stool. Get back here. Look at that military helicopter. Okay, now we'll actually cinch them down. Right there. Now I'm using the old gasket here because I have to take this off again to retorque the head bolts once they get to operating temperature. So I don't want to use my new gasket and risk damaging it. There. Now we'll put the hoses back. Okay. Now that's done. Okay, now we gotta get the old oil filter off. You can kind of see some of my oil routing I have. I've got some A&M fittings on there to make it all work in the area around the transmission. The oil filter used to run right straight into the frame if I didn't relocate it like this. So I just welded a tab to the frame and mounted the parts to it to relocate the oil filter on the side. It works well. I haven't had any issues with it so far. Yeah, let me get it off and we'll put the new one on. I know there's no oil in the engine right now, but there is going to be oil in here. Boy, that's a booter. There we go. Look at that. There's a lot of oil in there. There it goes. There we go. There's a lot of oil up in there. A lot more than I anticipated. I don't know why I didn't anticipate it to be full, but more than I thought. There's the Frontier back. Okay, I've got the new oil filter here cleaned and ready to go. Just make sure the surface is clean once more. Kind of hard to do one hand. There. Got our Wix filter. The filter is full of 1 quart of oil or thereabouts. Get it spun on up here. Cinch down. Hand tight. Get the oil tray out of my way. The filter is full of oil, like I said, and fresh oil on the seal. So we are good to go there. There. Now we just need to put the oil in the engine. The engine holds a little more than 5 quarts, I guess, or 4 quarts, and the quart that I put in here, I can't remember which. But I've got a 5/8 hoses running up to an oil cooler in the front. I mean, that all takes oil, so I'll fill it till it's level on the dipstick where it's supposed to be, and then once we get it primed and running, then we'll double check and make sure that we have adequate oil level. If not, then we'll put some more oil in it. All right, let's get up to the top. All right, so I use Wix filters. This one that fits this one and the Volkswagens is 51191. Really good filter. Have a lot of faith in it. And also, I always use Shell Rotella oil 1540 with a bottle of Restore, just to help it because it's an old engine and it does have some piston scoring. I noticed I can buy 2050, and I think that might be better for the worn engine. As many miles as it's got on it, it might be better to have a little thicker grade of oil in here. So after this, my next change, I'm going to try 2050 in there. There still is a little bit in this bottle from the filter, but not much. We're going to pour it in the engine so I can dispose of the bottle properly. Yeah, it wasn't much. The rest of it's in the oil filter. Let it drain out. I'm sure people will have their other opinions on this oil and recommendations on what oil should be used in here. But this one's always worked fine. The Shell Rotella oil has always worked perfect in this little engine. I've used it since I put it in here. So I'm sure there might be other choices out there, but this was mine. Now for the big boy. Think I can do it? I think I want a funnel. So a big funnel at it. Okay, here we go. My funnel. Help me pour. It's dirty on the outside, but it's clean on the inside. Look at that. Nice. Can't ask for anything better than that. Okay, so there's 1 gallon, 4 quarts. Spike, quiet. Now I feel safe on turning the engine over. Check the dipstick here in a minute. See how we're doing. back on. Yeah, we're getting there. Take a minute before the oil gets all the way down. Give it a minute, and for the oil to get down to the oil pan, and then we can check it if any more needs in or not. Okay, so I've got the battery hooked up. I've got the return line going to my Arizona bottle here. Just trying to get some of the air out of the pump and the system. What you probably hear is the electric fuel pump that I installed, and it's pushing fuel through the system to help get the air out. All right, that looks to be about it. Okay, now I take this off and reconnect the return line, and yeah, see if we can turn it over, build some oil pressure up into the block without starting it, and then we'll try to prime the injectors.
Yeah, Willy?
Hey, what's going on? Drain that fuel down. Ow, killing myself with that screwdriver. Okay, we're gonna give it a few turns, kind of bring some oil pressure up, and see what happens. Alright, so I'm trying to pull some of the air out of the fuel pump and the fuel hoses and such because they were disconnected quite so long. This is how I like to do it. I have my brake bleeder, vacuum brake bleeder, plugged into my fuel return on the fuel pump or injector pump, and I bring up the pressure or the vacuum, and I pull the fuel through the system. And I don't know if the camera shows it, but there's bubbles coming through the hose. So not only am I pulling the old fuel out of the pump, but I'm also pulling the air out as well. See if I can get the camera to get a closer shot at that. You see the air bubbles coming through? That's getting all the air out of the system, make the fuel pump work better. It's also pulling, like I said, it's getting the bad diesel out of the pump. And I'll do this several times until I kind of get no more bubbles coming through. If there's a better way and someone knows, leave it in the comments. Something that might be faster, more efficient, but this is what I have, and it seems to work good for me. The fuel is actually changing color too. The fuel was getting really brown, and this is more clean. That's a good sign. Maybe I get this air out of here. Hey, look at all that air. Look at that. We'll get all this air out of here, and then we can bleed the lines to the injectors and get this thing started. I tried bleeding the lines yesterday, and I was getting fuel at 1 and 4, but not 2 and 3, and this is probably why. There's an awful lot of air still in there. But you know, this pump and these hoses were all disconnected for almost a year. So fuel drained out, air went in. There's quite a bit of air in there. What I can do too is pick the back of the Samurai up so that the air, instead of being in the forward part of the pump, is actually coming to the back of the pump, and helps it come out faster. I'll shut you guys off and I'll continue to do this. It's kind of time consuming and boring, so I'll come back to this. So I'm all done priming. Had to put a new heat shield in number 3 cylinder because it was leaking diesel at the bottom of the injector. So I had to take all the system out, take the injector out. I put a new heat shield in and put it in, and it seemed to be fine. There must have been a defective heat shield that I put in there the first time. They were all new, but it could have been defective. I also had to, the screw right here, see if you can see it. This screw is the fuel pressure screw, and I had to turn up the pump a little bit to get more pressure. It wouldn't start. Even though the pump was freshly rebuilt, I guess the settings were kind of low, and this engine just needed more fuel, so I had to turn it up. I turned it up quarter at a time until I got it where I liked it, and then all I had to do was adjust the idle screw, which is this one, to bring the idle down once the fuel pressure was brought up, because it will bring the RPMs up fast by just adjusting the fuel screw. So you can back it down by the RPM screw and slow the engine down. It runs good. I have taken it for a drive here and there. However, this wire is my my cooling fan for the radiator, and it's not wanting to work. So it worked when I took it apart, and it's not working now. So I bought a new temperature sending unit. Hopefully that'll solve the problem. I did ground it, and the system works. The fan will turn on if I ground it, but it's not working through the temperature sending unit. So I bought a new sending unit, and I just haven't had a chance to put it in yet. I've also bought a new fuel filter because you know, that one's been in there a while. The fuel was old. In fact, let me show you the fuel, what's coming out of the tank. It could be a reason why it's running a little bit rough. Let me show you that fuel that came out of it. So just like gas, I guess diesel goes bad. You can see that looks like iced tea or I don't know what. That is pretty bad. Normal diesel is is clear with just a tint of like a greenish color to it, but mostly clear. This is definitely yellow, and there is some dirt in there. So I've got 3/4 of a tank of that stuff in there, and it is burning it, but it's not happy with it. I've got the new fuel filter, like I said. I would like to get the majority of this fuel through the engine. When I get down to about a 1/4 tank, maybe I can drain it out the drain plug on the tank and send some clean diesel in there, and then change the filter to a new filter and reprime the system again with clean diesel. The engine may like that better. Right now it's running a little bit rough because of the diesel. All right, let's get you set up on a tripod and we'll start it up. Alright, so there it was running. Like I said, it's not running too happy. It doesn't like that diesel that's in there right now. I really need to get it out of there and get some fresh diesel in there, maybe some cleaner or something to lubricate the inside of the injectors and get it going. Anyway, there we go. Samurai is running. Just needs a little fine tuning. So hope you enjoyed the video. thank you, and come back.